and now he's trolling me. I'm gonna get him.
When Stephen A. Smith called out Earl Campbell on live TV, fans thought it was just another headline moment. But behind Smith's trolling lies a tragic truth: the fall of a football icon whose millions vanished faster than his fame. What really happened to Earl Campbell's fortune? The rise and fall of a legend. When you think of NFL legends who dominated the gridiron with unparalleled ferocity and raw power, Earl Campbell's name immediately rises to the top of that conversation. Born on March 29, 1955, in the small town of Tyler, Texas, this man, who would become known as the Tyler Rose, grew up in extraordinarily humble circumstances. One of 11 children living on a modest 14-acre plot of land where survival meant hard work, self-sufficiency, and an unwavering family bond that would shape everything he would become. His mother, Ann Campbell, would later recount their frugal existence with these memorable words: "We grew all the food we needed. My kids were never crazy though. They never refused to wear other people's old clothes." This background of resilience, perseverance, and making something out of nothing would become the foundation upon which Campbell built not just a football career, but an entire legacy that transcended the sport itself. The Campbell family raised hogs and grew roses for sustenance, instilling in young Earl a work ethic that would serve him throughout his entire life, both on the football field and in the challenging years that would follow his retirement from professional sports. Campbell's journey to football immortality began at the University of Texas, where he rushed for an astounding 4,743 yards and scored 40 touchdowns, culminating in winning the 1977 Heisman Trophy, the first Longhorn ever to receive this prestigious award. His college dominance was so complete, so overwhelming, that in his remarkable 1977 season alone, he rushed for 1,744 yards, with 800 of those coming after contact, leading Texas to an undefeated regular season that captivated the entire state and put him on the national stage as one of the most feared running backs in college football history.
I couldn't believe that little country boy that started out in the 5th grade as a dream, in his mind of wanting to be something, was in New York, and the whole world was watching what I was doing. I don't think there's words to really describe what that means.
And what I truthfully like about it, he didn't forget about home, and he wanted it to come to Taos and be displayed here. He didn't forget about where he came from.
The Houston Oilers recognized Campbell's transcendent talent and made a blockbuster trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to secure the first overall pick in the 1978 NFL Draft, giving up tight end Jimmy Giles, their 1978 first and second round picks, and their 1979 third and fifth round selections, a massive investment that demonstrated just how highly the Oilers valued Campbell's potential to transform their franchise. Campbell signed a 6-year contract worth $1.4 million, a substantial sum for that era, and immediately transformed the franchise's fortunes in ways that exceeded even the most optimistic projections. As a rookie, Campbell exploded onto the professional scene with 302 carries for 1,450 yards, leading the entire league, and 13 touchdowns, earning NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. His performance propelled the Oilers to their first playoff appearance since 1969, and Campbell's dominance only intensified from there, establishing him as one of the most fearsome offensive weapons the league had ever witnessed. From 1978 to 1980, Campbell led the NFL in rushing yards each season, posting consecutive totals of 1,450, 1,097, and an astounding 1,934 yards, a 3-year stretch of dominance that remains one of the most impressive individual runs in NFL history. In 1979, he earned NFL MVP honors while setting records with 368 carries and 11 100-yard games, shouldering an absolutely enormous workload that demonstrated both his durability and his central importance to the Oilers' offensive strategy. His legendary 1980 season included 4 games with over 200 rushing yards, a single-season record that still stands as testament to his extraordinary endurance and power, with over 60% of his yards that season coming in the fourth quarter, when defenses were most exhausted and desperate to stop him. Campbell's playing style was nothing short of revolutionary and terrifying for defenders who had to face him twice a year in division play. Weighing approximately 200 230 pounds with legendary 36-inch thighs that became the stuff of NFL folklore. His approach involved lowering his helmet and barreling straight through defenders rather than around them, earning him comparisons to the immortal Jim Brown, perhaps the only running back whose combination of power and speed could rival Campbell's devastating effectiveness. On January 11, 2014, Stephen A. Smith himself tweeted about Campbell's dominance during a playoff discussion, asking, "Good Lord, who the hell is Blount, Jim Brown or Earl Campbell?" comparing Patriots running back LeGarrette Blount's playoff performance to these two all-time greats, which represents the kind of reverence and respect that Campbell's legacy continues to command from sports commentators and analysts decades after his retirement. From professional football, the real story of Earl Campbell's post-retirement challenges is far more complex, nuanced, and ultimately redemptive than any sensationalized broke athlete narrative would suggest, because it involves not just business setbacks, but also profound health challenges, addiction struggles, and a remarkable journey toward recovery that demonstrates the true measure of his character. Campbell retired abruptly during the 1986 preseason at age 31, telling coaches he was not very interested in football, despite arriving at training camp in strong physical condition, which surprised many observers who expected him to continue playing until he reached the psychologically significant milestone of 10,000 career rushing yards. The cumulative physical punishment from his punishing running style, exacerbated by playing on unforgiving AstroTurf surfaces that provided no cushioning and amplified the impact of every collision, had taken its toll, and Campbell walked away from the game just 593 yards short of 10,000 career rushing yards, prioritizing his long-term health and quality of life over arbitrary statistical achievements. Over his 8-season career, Campbell amassed 9,407 rushing yards and 74 touchdowns, earned 5 Pro Bowl selections, 3 Offensive Player of the Year awards, and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1991, cementing his status as one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game. But the physical cost of his aggressive style would haunt him for decades, setting the stage for challenges that would test his resilience far more than any linebacker ever could. Challenges that would push him to the absolute brink of despair before his family's intervention would help save his life. Following his retirement, Campbell transitioned into the business world, doing what many athletes attempt with varying degrees of success as they search for new purpose and identity after their playing careers end. In 1990, he founded Earl Campbell Foods with $150,000 in startup capital, specializing in sausages, barbecue sauces, and other products inspired by his family's hog-raising traditions back in Tyler, Texas, where his childhood experiences had given him authentic knowledge about meat production and Southern culinary traditions. The company started modestly, but showed genuine promise in Texas markets, leveraging Campbell's legendary status and authentic connection to regional barbecue culture that resonated strongly with consumers who wanted to support a homegrown hero and taste products that carried his personal stamp of approval. However, expansion proved to be far riskier than Campbell anticipated, as success in one area of business doesn't automatically translate to success in another, particularly in the notoriously difficult restaurant industry. In October 1999, Campbell and partners opened Earl Campbell's Lone Star BBQ on Austin's vibrant 6th Street, an entertainment district known more for nightlife, live music venues, and bar hopping than family dining establishments serving traditional barbecue. The restaurant featured Texas-themed decor, Campbell's memorabilia, including his precious Heisman Trophy, and received positive food reviews with solid lunchtime traffic from office workers and tourists who wanted to see Campbell's memorabilia and enjoy quality barbecue in a location steeped in Texas football history. But high overhead costs, location-specific challenges where evening crowds favored bars and music venues over dining establishments, and insufficient dinner revenue created an unsustainable financial situation that no amount of lunchtime success could offset. The restaurant closed in February 2001 when the landlord locked the doors over unpaid rent, with brown paper covering the windows, a public symbol of failure that was undoubtedly painful for someone who had achieved so much success on the football field and had never experienced this kind of public embarrassment or business setback during his athletic career. The sight of that brown paper, visible to everyone walking down 6th Street, represented not just a failed business venture, but a very public acknowledgement that Campbell's post-football transition was proving far more difficult than anyone had anticipated. This wasn't just an isolated restaurant failure that Campbell could write off as a learning experience and move on from quickly. In November 2000, creditors filed an involuntary Chapter 7 bankruptcy petition against Earl Campbell Foods, seeking liquidation amid debts from overexpansion and operational losses that had accumulated as the restaurant drained resources from the broader company. Campbell, then 46 years old, openly admitted his inexperience in a remarkably candid statement. "I don't know that business. This was the first time in my life I ran up against a wall, that I ran up on something I just couldn't do." This admission of vulnerability and failure from someone who had always succeeded through sheer determination and physical dominance demonstrated a humility and self-awareness that many former athletes struggle to achieve when confronting their limitations outside their sport. The dark valley and the fight for survival. What many people don't understand about Earl Campbell's financial challenges is that this was a business-specific bankruptcy, not a personal one, and it stemmed from typical post-retirement pitfalls that many athletes face: overambitious expansion without deep industry knowledge, rather than reckless spending, lavish lifestyle choices, or any kind of fraud or financial irresponsibility that often characterizes athlete bankruptcy stories that make headlines and reinforce negative stereotypes about professional athletes and their relationship with money. Campbell wasn't buying expensive cars, jewelry, or mansions he couldn't afford. He was trying to build a legitimate business that would provide employment, serve his community, and create a lasting legacy beyond football. Campbell's response to this setback was both pragmatic and philosophically grounded in faith, demonstrating the character and resilience that had made him such a formidable competitor on the football field. His press release at the time framed the situation with remarkable resilience. As an NFL Hall of Fame running back, Earl Campbell was known for being able to take a direct hit, regain his balance, and keep going forward. In football, it's called yards after contact. Now Campbell is displaying the same ability on the playing field of big business. This metaphor perfectly captured Campbell's approach to adversity, acknowledging the hit he had taken while making it clear that he had no intention of staying down or giving up on his business dreams. The bankruptcy was resolved through restructuring rather than full liquidation, which meant that Campbell's brand and business could continue rather than being completely dismantled and sold off piece by piece. A sausage manufacturer in Flatonia, Texas, absorbed the debts and formed a new entity called Earl Campbell Meat Products, with longtime friend Danny Janeka assisting in securing retail shelf space throughout Texas and eventually across the country, using personal relationships and Campbell's celebrity status to get products into stores that might otherwise have been hesitant to work with a company that had just emerged from bankruptcy proceedings. Campbell drew personal motivation from faith during this difficult period, recalling a sermon with these powerful words: "When you're in the pits of life, God knows. He'll come get you out of that pit. He just says, step, and you rise on up." This spiritual foundation would prove crucial not just for his business recovery, but for the even more difficult personal battles he would face in the years ahead. Battles that would test his faith and his family bonds in ways that no business setback ever could. This pivot shifted the business focus entirely to wholesale sausage production, carefully avoiding the restaurant pitfalls that had caused such financial pain, and instead concentrating on what Campbell's company did best: producing high-quality sausage products that consumers loved and retailers wanted to stock. And here's where the story becomes truly inspiring rather than tragic. By 2012, the company had rebounded so strongly that it ranked as the 9th largest sausage manufacturer in the United States, producing over 11 million pounds of sausage annually, an extraordinary turnaround that demonstrated Campbell's business acumen once he focused on his core competencies and partnered with experienced manufacturers who understood the operational challenges he had struggled with. A 2013 report noted monthly processing of approximately 600,000 pounds, with production continuing to grow as distribution expanded nationwide. Products including gluten-free, no MSG hot links made from chicken, pork, and beef are sold at major retailers like H-E-B, Walmart, Piggly Wiggly, and Amazon, making Campbell's sausages accessible to consumers across the country who want to taste the products that bear his name and reputation. As of 2025, the business remains active with ongoing sales and a social media presence promoting products and events, demonstrating that Campbell's business recovery wasn't temporary or illusory, but represented genuine, sustainable success built on quality products and smart partnerships. Campbell's net worth today is estimated at $25 million, derived from NFL earnings and pensions, endorsements with brands like Coca-Cola and Russell Athletic, business revenue from the meat products company, and real estate including a $4 million mansion in Austin built in 2011. Hardly the profile of someone who went broke in any meaningful sense of that phrase. success. But if you think the business challenges were the most difficult obstacles Earl Campbell faced in his post-football life, you'd be absolutely wrong, because running parallel to his financial recovery were personal health battles that would test his strength, willpower, and family bonds in ways that no opposing defense ever could. Battles that would bring him to the edge of death and force his family to intervene to save his life before addiction completely destroyed everything he had worked so hard to rebuild. Campbell's spinal issues trace back to his playing days, though they weren't diagnosed until much later, creating a situation where he played through symptoms that should have ended his career immediately if doctors had understood the full extent of his condition. A defining moment occurred on November 4, 1979, during a game against the Oakland Raiders, when safety Jack Tatum delivered a brutal hit under Campbell's chin at the goal line, a collision that could easily have resulted in permanent paralysis or even death given Campbell's undiagnosed spinal stenosis. He finished that game with 107 yards on 32 carries, but never reported the symptoms to team doctors or trainers, partly because admitting vulnerability wasn't part of the football culture of that era, and partly because he genuinely didn't understand the severity of what had happened to his spine during that collision. Years later, retrospective analysis by spinal surgeon Dr. Stan Jones revealed it was likely a contusion of the spinal cord, exacerbated by pre-existing stenosis that Campbell had been born with, but that had never been diagnosed despite his years playing football at the highest levels. Dr. Jones explained the terrifying reality. It is terrifying. Earl probably had a contusion of the spinal cord at that time, which would explain the burning. He's really lucky he was not injured severely with that hit. The formal diagnosis came in 1999, revealing spinal stenosis, a congenital narrowing of the spinal canal that compresses nerves, causing pain, numbness, and weakness that had been with Campbell since birth, but had been aggravated and worsened by years of violent collisions on the football field. Doctors marveled that Campbell had avoided paralysis, with one stating, "The amazing thing to me about Earl Campbell is that you weren't paralyzed." Dr. Jones added that modern medical standards would have barred him from playing. If doctors had known about the significant stenosis, they wouldn't have let him play. He escaped a horrible possible situation. The revelation that Campbell had played his entire career with a condition that could have killed or paralyzed him at any moment added a new dimension to his legend. Not just courage in the face of defenders, but unknowing courage in the face of a medical condition that made every hit a potential catastrophe. From 1999 to 2008, Campbell underwent 5 back surgeries to address what he initially believed were just football-related damages that could be repaired through surgical intervention and physical therapy. The 2008 procedure, a revision laminectomy performed by Dr. Jones, involved removing 12 loose screws from prior surgeries that were irritating nerves, causing his legs to jump involuntarily during the operation, a disturbing symptom that demonstrated just how serious his spinal issues had become. But the surgeries themselves created another devastating problem that would nearly destroy everything Campbell had rebuilt in his business and personal life. Pain management after these procedures led to opioid addiction that would spiral completely out of control over the course of nearly a decade. Prescribed Vicodin and OxyContin starting in 1999, Campbell's usage escalated dramatically to 10 pills daily, often mixed with Budweiser or other alcohol, a deadly combination that kills thousands of Americans every year, despite having absolutely no prior history of drug use or addiction issues before his surgeries introduced him to the powerful opioids that would take over his life.
Truth is, he's a recovering prescription drug addict, the result of doctors giving him opioids for years for his sports injury pain. Today at Rise Recovery's 16th annual campaign breakfast, he explained how a couple of pills washed down with beer grew into an addiction that nearly ruined his life.
The symptoms of Campbell's addiction were devastating and impossible to hide from those who knew him well or worked with him professionally. He experienced slurred speech, memory loss, fumbling with words, alienating his family members, and squandering professional opportunities that would have been valuable for his business and his legacy. He would arrive at business consultations in a wheelchair, admitting with brutal honesty, "I can't do anything." The addiction strained family relationships to their breaking point, threatening to destroy the bonds that had sustained Campbell through all his previous challenges. Then came the intervention that would save Earl Campbell's life and restore him to his family. In late 2008, following Michael Jackson's highly publicized overdose death that shocked the world and highlighted the dangers of prescription drug abuse, even among the wealthy and famous, Dr. Stan Jones orchestrated a family intervention with Campbell's sons, Christian and Tyler, who confronted their father about the genuine risks to his health and life.
And I'm sitting there, and Christian says, "Tyler, you tell him." Tyler says, "No, Christian, you tell him." Tyler, "It's okay, I tell him." Hey, Dad, You drinking all that beer and the tequila and you taking pain pills, you know better than that. So what we're gonna do is, come Monday morning, we got something for you. I said, this is my house. What are you boys talking about? I said, no, Dad, listen. You're gonna go to rehab and you're gonna get your stuff straight. And man, to have 2 children you raised, that we don't do that in this house. They have to tell you about that, right?
The confrontation laid bare the painful reality that Campbell's addiction had reached a point where his own children, whom he had raised to be strong, independent men, now had to parent him and force him to confront his disease before it killed him. Redemption and legacy. The intervention led to a 44-day stay in an Austin rehabilitation facility over the holidays, a period during which Campbell was separated from his family during what should have been a joyous time of celebration, and instead found himself confronting the demons of addiction, alongside strangers who were fighting their own battles with drugs and alcohol. Campbell endured the brutal withdrawal symptoms, including tremors and sweats, that made him feel like his body was being torn apart from the inside. Initially resistant to the idea that he belonged there, I didn't believe I belonged with people hooked on heroin, cocaine. Campbell gradually recognized his shared struggles with other patients. I began to see myself in all of their stories and realized that we were all fighting the same fight. This recognition that addiction doesn't discriminate based on fame, wealth, or accomplishments proved crucial to Campbell's recovery and his willingness to be vulnerable about his struggles.
I got down on my knees and I accepted that I had a problem.
In telling the story, Campbell offered hope, a role model to those who may have never seen him play but are impressed with his sobriety.
He extended his stay beyond the initially planned 28 days, achieving sobriety by late 2008, which means, as of 2025, Earl Campbell has maintained his sobriety for approximately 17 years, an extraordinary achievement that deserves recognition and celebration as much as any rushing title or Pro Bowl selection he earned during his playing career. Maintaining sobriety for 17 years requires daily commitment, constant vigilance, and a support system that keeps you accountable even when temptation strikes, and Campbell has demonstrated all of these qualities throughout his recovery journey.
I wanted to be Earl. I want to be successful. And I believe, thanks to the good Lord, I happen to do it my way.
Post-recovery, Campbell manages his ongoing chronic pain through non-narcotic methods, an approach he actively advocates for others facing similar challenges after sports careers, surgeries, or injuries that create the kind of chronic pain that can easily lead to addiction. He uses a Bowflex machine for workouts, meditation, and prayer to manage his pain levels, discovering that exercise actually helps reduce his pain rather than aggravating it as he initially feared.
My Bowflex machine and working out, I find that my pain gets a little better, but I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I don't still have pain in my back, because I do.
Campbell's honesty about his continued pain is important because it acknowledges the reality that recovery from addiction doesn't mean you're suddenly pain-free and everything is perfect. It means you've found healthier ways to manage that pain and live with it rather than letting it control your life through chemical dependence. Campbell reports significantly improved mental clarity and decision-making ability since achieving sobriety. The new sober Campbell thinks more clearly and makes better decisions. He remains vigilant and committed to his recovery, attending AA meetings regularly, even during visits to Times Square in New York City, refusing to let travel or business commitments interfere with the recovery work that keeps him sober and healthy. Campbell has become an outspoken advocate for addiction recovery and awareness about the dangers of prescription painkillers, using his platform and reputation to warn others about the slippery slope that begins with legitimate prescriptions for real pain but can quickly spiral into full-blown addiction that destroys lives. He speaks at events like the 2016 Rise Recovery Campaign Breakfast, mentors youth about the risks of opioid addiction, and shares his story with brutal honesty to help others avoid his path or find hope if they're already struggling with addiction themselves. He warns emphatically about prescription risks with this powerful statement: "The greatest drug pushers in the world are our doctors." This controversial statement highlights his belief that the medical establishment bears significant responsibility for the opioid epidemic that has killed hundreds of thousands millions of Americans by overprescribing addictive medications without adequate warning or monitoring. Family has remained absolutely central to Campbell's recovery and ongoing life, providing the support system that keeps him grounded and accountable. His son Tyler's multiple sclerosis diagnosis in 2007 at age 21, which ended Tyler's own promising football career at San Diego State University and his potential path to the NFL, actually provided additional motivation for Campbell's turnaround and recovery because his son needed a sober, present father to help navigate the challenges of living with a chronic disease. Christian Campbell noted the profound changes in his father. The person that we'd known up until that point, he wasn't sober. After a decade plus, it's still taking time for us to really get to know him again. This poignant observation highlights how addiction doesn't just affect the addict, but robs their family of the person they love, replacing them with someone unrecognizable. Earl and Tyler have collaborated extensively on multiple sclerosis awareness initiatives, transforming Tyler's diagnosis from a family tragedy into an opportunity to help others facing similar challenges, including hosting the annual Flavors of Austin fundraiser, starting around 2011 to support the National MS Society, where Tyler serves as an ambassador and uses his platform to encourage others living with MS. In 2020, Tyler launched the Educate.Elevate.Collaborate initiative with the Pro Player Foundation, including social media campaigns, panel discussions with doctors and patients, and educational tools specifically designed to address MS awareness in Black, Latino, and underprivileged communities that have historically been underserved by medical research and healthcare systems. His story aligns with typical post-retirement transitions where business inexperience creates temporary challenges, not permanent financial ruin, or the kind of destitution that leaves former athletes homeless or desperate. The bankruptcy was business-focused, stemming from an ill-advised restaurant expansion and operational challenges, rather than any personal financial irresponsibility or lavish lifestyle spending that characterize so many other athlete bankruptcy stories that make headlines and reinforce negative stereotypes. And most importantly, Earl Campbell's current net worth of $25 million demonstrates a complete financial recovery and sustained prosperity that puts him among the wealthiest former athletes of his generation. In March 2025, he even expanded into new business ventures, launching top-notch window cleaner and pressure washer services, demonstrating continued entrepreneurial spirit and financial stability well into his 70s, hardly the actions of someone who was broke or struggling financially in any meaningful way. Campbell's philanthropy also reflects his financial stability and commitment to giving back to the communities that supported him throughout his career. He established the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award in 2013 for top Texas Tide NCAA offensive players, recognizing excellence while maintaining his connection to his home state, provides youth mentoring through his foundation that helps young people avoid the pitfalls he encountered, and continues advocating for athlete health and addiction recovery awareness through speaking engagements across the country. His reflections on his journey demonstrate remarkable perspective and humility about his place in football history and his life beyond the game. Campbell has stated that number 20 on the University of Texas, he's no more, but the guy who wore those numbers, he's still the same. God just gave him something else to do. This philosophy of adaptation, resilience, and finding new purpose beyond football has defined his post-retirement life and enabled him to overcome challenges that would have destroyed someone with less character and determination. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.